She ghosted me after our first date, and at first, I did what most people do. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. People disappear all the time. Maybe she wasn't feeling it. Maybe she met someone else. Maybe her life got busy. I convinced myself it was out of my hands and that I shouldn't take it personally. But as days passed, something kept gnawing at me. It wasn't just the silence that haunted me. It was the way the night ended, the way she looked at me before saying goodbye, like she wanted to tell me something, like she was scared. I met her on a rainy Thursday, and already I should have known this was no ordinary encounter. We matched on a dating app, standard stuff. Her profile didn't scream for attention. In fact, it was strangely quiet. A single picture, dimly lit, no filters, and a short bio. Let's talk about the things that keep us up at night. That line hooked me, and in retrospect, I should have read it more. Literally, her name was Elise. We talked for 3 days before setting a date. She didn't overshare. She didn't flirt. She asked questions that felt like interviews for a role I didn't know I was auditioning for. What's your relationship with guilt? Do you believe people can change? Have you ever seen something you wish you could unsee? I thought it was quirky. I told myself she was just deep, introspective, artistic. She wasn't. Not in the way I understood. The night of our date, I wore a dark button-up and she wore black. I remember that because she almost seemed to vanish in the shadows of the wine bar. She smiled, but there was distance in her eyes, as if part of her hadn't arrived yet. Our conversation was calm, almost too calm, like two strangers being polite after accidentally bumping into each other at a funeral. I noticed her hands trembled a little when she lifted her glass. I joked that maybe the wine was too strong. She didn't laugh. Instead, she looked at me and asked, "Do you ever get the feeling someone's watching you, even when you're alone?" I laughed again, awkwardly, and brushed it off. But that night stayed with me. Not because of anything romantic. It wasn't that kind of night. It was memorable in the way nightmares are memorable. Hazy, disjointed, and echoing with things you don't understand until later. When I walked her to her car, she hugged me, hesitated, and then whispered, "Thank you." For what? I don't know. She never answered my texts again. No explanations. Just silence. A week went by, then two. I did the pathetic thing and sent a, "Hey, hope you're okay" message. Nothing. Her dating profile was gone. I told myself it was over. She had vanished. And yet I couldn't delete her from my thoughts. Something was unfinished. I began replaying our conversations, looking for clues. It was obsessive, I know, but something wasn't right. That's when I did something I'm not proud of. I searched for her online. Not through social media. She didn't seem to have any, but through old-fashioned Google. I dug deeper than I ever had for anyone. It wasn't easy, but eventually I found a name that matched, connected to an old college website. From there, I found a blurry group photo from a psychology club. She was in the back row, half smiling. The caption said it was taken 4 years ago. Then I found a newspaper clipping. It wasn't about her. It was about a boy who died. And then everything started to unravel. The article was about a high school student, aged 17, found dead in the woods outside his town. Cause of death, suicide. But the article hinted at circumstances that raised questions, including a rumor that he had been tormented by a private online group, an anonymous circle that fed into his anxieties. The article mentioned that the police had a list of potential contributors, but no charges were ever filed. Names weren't made public, but in a Reddit thread buried deep in an old forum, someone had posted something disturbing. A screenshot of a group chat. The usernames weren't real names, but one of them stood out. _L1 Sun Zero Turn. My gut twisted. I remembered her line, "Let's talk about the things that keep us up at night." My hands shook as I scrolled further. The Reddit thread was a cesspool of conspiracy, rumors, and bits of digital sleuthing. One user claimed he had spoken to someone who had been in that group. He said it wasn't just a toxic chat room. It was a kind of psychological experiment. Members would find people online, slowly break them down emotionally, gaslight them, and document the effects. It was sick, and it got darker. Some members, according to the post, had turned the game into real life, manipulating classmates, friends, even dates. There were hints that Elise, if that was even her real name, had been part of this. Some commenters said she dropped out of college. Others claimed she was forced into therapy after being identified, unofficially, as a non-culpable participant. Whatever that meant, I wasn't sure I believed all of it. The internet has a way of distorting things. But it made sense of her questions, her fear, her distance. And then I realized what made my stomach turn. The way she asked me if I'd ever seen something I couldn't forget. The way she seemed to be looking through me on our date. She wasn't scared of me. She was scared for me. And I didn't understand why until I got a letter. Yes, an actual letter. No stamp, no address. Just folded paper slipped under my apartment door one night. It simply said, "I didn't mean to involve you. Please forget me. Please don't look for me. It's safer that way." That's when I started noticing the man across the street. He was always there at odd hours, standing still, staring, not hiding, not moving, just watching. The same feeling she mentioned, the sense of being watched, had crawled into my life. I wasn't paranoid. I knew something had followed me home from that night. Something I didn't understand. Something Elise tried to escape and accidentally passed on. I didn't sleep for the next 3 nights. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face again. That moment at the end of the date when she said, "Thank you," like it was a goodbye wrapped in guilt. I began checking the locks on my door obsessively. I taped black paper over the peephole because I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was on the other side, looking back. The man across the street never moved closer. He didn't knock, didn't send a message. But he was there, always in the corner of my vision, like a bad dream that's taken physical form. And I started to wonder if this was what Elise meant when she asked if I believed people could change. Not emotionally, existentially. As if something could crack open inside. And never go back to what it was. I didn't tell anyone what I was experiencing. Who would believe me? Hey, I went on a single date with a woman who might have psychologically tormented someone to death, and now I'm being watched by a man who never blinks. That's not exactly something you bring up over drinks. I started skipping work. I told him I was sick, which wasn't even a lie. I was unraveling, and I knew it. My food tasted like cardboard. My heartbeat fell off. I'd walk past mirrors and feel like I was catching my own reflection lagging behind. I tried to find her again, Elise, or whoever she was, but she had vanished completely. The phone number didn't work. The one email I had from her bounced. Even the people from that old college forum thread stopped replying. It was like she never existed. But the man across the street stayed. One night, I broke. I stood by the window, looked directly at him, and raised my middle finger. Childish, I know, but I wanted to provoke. Something, anything, just to break the standoff. He didn't react. He didn't flinch. He just watched. That night, I found another letter. Same handwriting, same paper, same message delivery under my door. This one said, "You shouldn't have done that. He's more interested now." That's when I realized this wasn't random. I was part of something. A game? A curse? A punishment? I don't know, but it was deliberate. I hadn't just stumbled into Elise's past. She had handed me the thread, and I had pulled it. And now, whatever fabric was holding my reality together was starting to come apart. So I did what anyone losing their grip on sanity might do. I started documenting everything. Times the man appeared, what I was doing when I saw him, what direction he was facing, whether he blinked. I took pictures. None of them came out right. Always blurry. Overexposed. Sometimes there was no one in the picture at all, even though I swore I'd seen him a second before. I recorded audio overnight. Once, I heard something on playback. Whispering. A woman's voice. It said, "Don't make him remember." That's when I started doubting my own identity. What if this wasn't Elise's story? What if it was mine and I just didn't know it yet? What if I had forgotten something? Or worse, what if something had made me forget? I started revisiting my own memories. Old journals, emails, photos, looking for gaps, looking for cracks. And I found them. Small things. Like a year of my life I couldn't really remember. 2018. I knew the facts, where I worked, who I dated, what I did, but none of it felt real. like I was describing someone else's life. Then I found a voice memo on my phone dated September 14th, 2018. I had never listened to it before. It was only 10 seconds long, but it changed everything. In my own voice, I said, "If I forget again, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I didn't mean to let him in." And then silence. That was my voice, my tone, but I had no memory of recording it. None. I sat on my floor for hours after that, just staring at the ceiling. What had I done? Who was he? Was this some deep, psychotic break? Or was something literally wrong with my reality? I decided I couldn't stay in that apartment any longer. I booked a motel on the edge of town. Cheap, grimy, anonymous. I packed a bag, locked up, and drove in the middle of the night. And for a moment, I felt a sliver of relief, as if distance might be a cure. But when I checked into the room and pulled the curtains, I saw him again, standing by the vending machine across the lot, staring, always staring. That night, I received no letter. Instead, I got a call from a blocked number. I didn't answer. The voicemail was only 2 words. Elise's voice. She said, "He remembers." I dropped the phone. It hit the linoleum and shattered the case, but the screen stayed on. I left it there. I couldn't touch it. Couldn't listen again. The motel room felt like it was shrinking. I turned on all the lights. Turned on the TV, the radio, anything to drown out the silence. And then I saw my reflection in the black screen of the turned off TV. But it wasn't doing what I was doing. My reflection was smiling. That's when I blacked out. I don't remember falling asleep, or collapsing, or anything. But I woke up at 4:17 a.m. with blood on my palm and a message scrawled on the bathroom mirror in what looked like lipstick or possibly something worse. It said, "Now do you see?" I left the motel and drove for hours, not knowing where I was going, just needing to move. I ended up in the parking lot of an old church. Deserted, gothic, crumbling. I sat on the hood of my car and finally cried. Not because I was scared anymore, because I realized I had become part of something Elise had tried to escape. Something old, something sentient, something that didn't just follow, it infected. Maybe that's what happened to her. Maybe she had gone on a date once too, with someone broken in ways you don't see until it's too late. Maybe she tried to warn me, or pass it on, or both. And maybe now I was next. Not to die necessarily, but to lose myself, to become the next Elise, to vanish, to watch someone else from across the street, to become a chapter in someone else's nightmare. I didn't go home after the church. I didn't go anywhere familiar. I drove aimlessly until the sun came up and the radio started playing morning talk shows that sounded alien to me now. People laughing, reading horoscopes, talking about coffee shops and dog parks like the world hadn't twisted sideways, like the air around them hadn't changed. It made me realize how far I'd slipped. I wasn't part of that world anymore. I wasn't normal anymore. I went off grid. I turned off my phone, got rid of it completely, paid cash for everything, stayed in hostels and cheap motels under fake names. But none of it helped. He still found me, not always in person, but in reflections, in screens, in shadows that didn't belong. He began appearing in dreams, always silent, always watching. I'd wake up soaked in sweat, my mouth dry from screaming in my sleep, the image of him burned into my eyelids like an afterimage from looking at the sun. And then the letters started again. No matter where I went, they found me. Always folded. The same way. Always slipped under a door or tucked inside a book I hadn't opened or placed gently into my pillow while I was asleep. And the messages grew more personal. You asked for this. You knew her before. You were one of us. That last one almost made me vomit. I wasn't sure if it was a lie or a reminder, because the truth is, I was starting to remember things. Bits and pieces. Out of sequence memories like torn pages of a book I didn't know I had written. A party. A dark room. People wearing masks. Elise was there. So was I. But we weren't strangers. We were participants. I saw flashes of a computer screen. A chat log. Someone crying. And then the phrase, typed in all caps, "Make him remember." That's when I started to accept the truth. The first date with Elise wasn't our first meeting. It was our reunion. But something had been erased, suppressed, forgotten, whether by me or by something else. I didn't know. All I knew was that she tried to break the cycle, try to step outside of it, but she couldn't, and now neither could I. I thought about ending it. That dark, creeping thought we don't admit to having. Not out of despair, but as an act of resistance. If I was no longer part of the game, maybe it would stop. But something inside me, some flicker of clarity, whispered that this was exactly what he wanted. Not my death, my surrender. And if I gave up, I'd pass it on to someone else. That's how it worked. A chain of infection through grief and memory. Elise didn't vanish because she was guilty. She vanished because she was trying to contain it. 2. Seal it inside herself. And when she met me again, something in her cracked. Maybe she thought I could help her end it. Maybe she hoped I'd forgotten enough to be free. But I hadn't, and neither had she. I realized I had to go back. Back to where it started. Not metaphorically. Literally. Back to the town where she'd gone to college. Where that boy had died. Where I might have once lived another life. I don't remember the drive. Just arriving. I parked outside the library. It was still open, quiet as a tomb. I walked in, unsure what I was even looking for. And then I saw it. An old yearbook on display in a glass case. A commemorative copy of the graduating class of 2018. Her photo was there. Elise. Full name, Elise Nora Calloway. And next to her, someone I didn't recognize. But the name chilled me to the bone. Daniel Wren. That's my middle name. I'd never gone by it. No one knew it but my parents. And yet there it was, printed under a face I didn't recognize, but one that felt familiar in that way nightmares do. I opened a second copy of the yearbook and flipped to the club section. There was a group photo for something called the Empathy Lab, a student-run experiment into group psychology and emotional mirroring. Elise was in the front. I was in the back, smiling. No one else looked happy. Everyone else looked like they were being held hostage by their own minds. I found a name under the photo. Faculty advisor, Dr. Wallace H. Monroe. I searched the archives. Found an old campus directory. Office 2B, South Wing. Retired, but sometimes gave lectures. I went there. The building was abandoned. Dust coated everything like skin on a forgotten corpse. The walls were peeling, and the air smelled like metal and mold. But the office was still there. The nameplate on the door, crooked but intact. I pushed it open. Inside were dozens of filing cabinets, and one wall covered entirely with Polaroids. All of faces. Faces mid-scream, mid-tear, mid-collapse, and then a single note taped beneath all of them. It read, "Remembering is the only way out." I stood there, breath frozen as the last piece clicked into place. This wasn't a haunting. It was a system, an experiment, a mechanism built from trauma and emotion, an AI made from pain, running not on electricity, but on guilt. It needed hosts to survive, not to kill, to remember, because remembering was how it lived. Elise had tried to destroy it by forgetting. I had accidentally rebooted it by coming back. And now it was awake. Fully. I ran. I drove for hours again. The man was no longer across the street. He was in the back seat. In mirrors. In dreams. In me. I could feel his thoughts sometimes. Cold. Analytical. Like a researcher taking notes inside my head. But I also began to sense Elise. Like echoes in a canyon. I think she left pieces of herself behind in my memory. Like breadcrumbs. Clues. I wasn't alone in this. She hadn't failed. She had passed the torch. And now I had to decide what to do with it. I'm telling this story not for sympathy and not for attention. I'm telling it because I believe this thing survives by hiding in silence. It breeds in forgetting. And I'm done forgetting. This is my way of remembering. And if you're hearing this, if you've ever felt like you're being watched when you're alone, maybe you are. Maybe he's testing you, seeing if you're ready to remember too. I never thought my story would end like this, scraping at the edges of my own mind, clinging to fragments of a life that may or may not have happened, broadcasting a warning into the void, knowing most people will never hear it, and the ones who do might wish they hadn't. But that's the final truth I came to understand. This isn't about Elise anymore. It was never just about her. She was a symptom. I was a symptom. We all were. The real virus was something older, something designed, possibly by people, possibly by something else, to feed on a very specific kind of energy. Regret, guilt, memory. I've spent months tracing the origins, looking for the first thread, and the deeper I went, the more I realized there is no first thread. It loops, a closed circuit. Someone forgets, someone remembers. Someone ghosts, someone grieves. And the cycle begins again. I returned to the first wine bar we went to, hoping to find something, anything, but it was gone, closed permanently, boarded up, no record of its existence under that name in any database, like it never existed. That's when I realized I wasn't just being followed, I was being edited. The world was changing around me, removing pieces, rewriting the timeline, not erasing memories from me, but erasing me from memories. I tested it. I called an old friend from high school, asked if he remembered when I broke my arm at camp. Silence. You never came to camp, he said. You moved away that summer. But I didn't. I have photos, scars, emails. Yet he was sure. And it wasn't just him. I was slowly being erased from the narrative of other people's lives, one by one, like a virus burning through paper. I knew then that I didn't have much time left, at least not in the way normal people think of time. My identity was rotting from the inside out. I felt myself slipping more and more, not just forgetting things, but forgetting why they mattered. Forgetting what? It felt like to care. And that's how he wins. Not through terror, but through numbness. Through detachment. When you no longer care about holding on, that's when the infection completes itself. That's when you stop being the host and become the carrier. Elise tried to stop it by ghosting me. She knew the moment we met that it had returned. That something between us had history. History we'd both been made to forget. She wasn't pulling away because she didn't care. She was trying to protect me, trying to contain the breach. But I couldn't let it go. And by pulling the thread, I undid her sacrifice. I brought it all back. And now I'm doing the only thing I can. I'm pushing the weight of the memory outward, into the world, onto you. This story you're hearing, it isn't just a narrative. It's a mirror. And if you've listened this far, then I've succeeded. Because now you remember too. You remember Elise. You remember the boy in the woods. You remember the lab, the group, the voice in the mirror. Even if you never lived it. That's how it travels. Through narrative, through suggestion, through emotional imprint. And if you feel it now, chills, a flicker in your vision, a shadow that doesn't move when you do, then he's near. Watching, testing, deciding. You might think I'm crazy. You might laugh and walk away. Forget this whole thing in an hour. Maybe that's good. Maybe you're not ready. But some of you will feel it. And you'll start seeing him. First across the street, then in the corner of your mirror, then behind your own eyes. He doesn't chase. He waits. Because time isn't linear for him. He's not hunting you. He's cultivating you. He's patient. You'll start hearing whispers when no one's home. Voices calling from your own memories, echoing things you never said aloud. You'll try to forget. You want to forget. That's how he tricks you into opening the door. But if you remember, really remember, he can't take you. Not fully. That's the loophole Elise tried to exploit. The more vividly you hold onto your guilt, your story, your why, the harder it is for him to overwrite you. That's why I've been telling this. Not to warn, to arm. Because forgetting is what he feeds on. And remembering is the only way to starve him. So here's what you need to do now. Tonight, when you're alone, before bed, write down 3 memories that make you ache. Not the ones you post online. The real ones. The ones you bury. The moments that scarred you. Write them in ink. Feel them again. Don't look away. Keep them near your bed. Read them before you sleep. Then dream. If you see Elise, listen to her. If you see him, don't engage. Just remember, I'm not sure how much longer I have before I'm completely gone. Some days I wake up and don't recognize the sound of my own voice. Other days I feel nothing. No hunger, no pain, just static, like my soul's buffering. If you stop hearing from me, if my account disappears or this story vanishes, it wasn't censorship. It was completion. I became a shadow, and maybe one day I'll be the one standing across the street from you, watching, waiting, regretting. But until then, this is my last message. The system can't survive exposure. The virus can adapt to memory. Remember Elise. Remember the boy in the woods. Remember the things that keep you up at night. Not to fear them, to anchor yourself. He'll try to make you forget this. You'll scroll to the next video, click to the next story, let the day sweep it all away. But somewhere deep inside, part of you will remain. Awake, part of you will know. And when he comes, you won't be surprised.